Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about a very fun adventure hook that comes straight out of real life. All right, so Dungeons and Dragons adventure hook for you. I deeply missed the New York Times Audio Digest. It was a product that existed until the first day of 2022. It was New York Times content, kind of boiled down into a podcast and then distributed through Audible. So you had to be subscribed to Audible to get it. And I just weep for it. I've spent 4 months this year trying to replace it, and I finally got to the point where I've replaced it. It's not better, but it's as close as it's going to get, and it's definitely hitting 80 or 90%. And that is, I go into Google Podcasts, and I go to USA Today, and then I queue up all their 2-minute subs from their 2-minute stories. I just click, add to queue. It takes about a minute or two. It's not too bad. And then I listen to that queue, and that essentially becomes a replacement for the New York Times Audio Digest. The reason why I mention that is it's pretty, this DND Beyond thing is real. I definitely get how important that is. Because I think, a lot of people were like, okay, you got this, strained relationship with this third-party content manager. The product's okay, but we really don't know if it's going to exist, right? And it just let everybody relax, right? And New York Times, huge news organization, literally prove they can't distribute a podcast. What the, it's, come on, And so the reality is, we can do anything with tech now, almost anything, right? But we can barely get two people to decide on the color of blue, right? It's, to agree that water is wet, right? So people, processes, tools, we got powerful tools. Nobody cares about process, and we can't get people to do nothing together anymore. It's bad. We're getting some serious fractures in society, right? This thing, New York Times Audio Digest was really important to me, and it just disappeared overnight. And literally, it's because the New York Times cannot figure out how to distribute a podcast. That is insane, right? That's nuts, right? Good grief, right? So, because you got knuckleheads out there who got terrible content and can figure out the distribution, right? It's crazy. So I'm listening to sorry about that, I just kind of went off there. Go off, King, right? so basically, I listened to USA Today, and they had this amazing story. So father and son go out in Utah. This is what they reported, right? Father and son go out in Utah and shoot a grizzly bear. And you're like, now, boy, look at how upside down our world is, right? They shoot a grizzly bear, a gigantic ursine predator, and the whole world's like, what are you doing? Are you hunting horrible man-eating predators? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, you can't do that. We have to protect. Humankind has become so dangerous, right, that we have to protect outrageously dangerous predators, right? Because that's how baller we are. Humans win, man. We are very dangerous, right? So, which I think is good. That's good. I don't want to be dominated by grizzly bears. So, yeah. All right. So basically, this father and son, they hunt to death a grizzly bear, right? So then the grizzly bear dies. Here's where it gets interesting. The USA Today said, once the grizzly bear died, it emitted a mortality signal. And you're like, what? Wait, what? The grizzly bear emitted a mortality signal? So this thing had been chipped by some, Hug the Dolphins eco organization. And they knew when the grizzly bear died. And so they, some, granola eating, Subaru driving, vegan was like, we got to get on this grizzly bear death investigation. And they engaged the police, right? And once the police got in, they actually solved the murder of they solved the killing of, the hunting killing of a grizzly bear, right? And then, right, the law show up on the door of this son and father, right? And they're like, you can't just be rolling up on grizzly bears and killing them, right? So here's the D&D signal, right? Okay, yeah, I know you killed that, I know you killed that aboleth, but it emitted a mortality signal, right? So any monster that your player. So tier 2 dungeon master. Y'all's killed a unicorn. Great. Here's your XP. Move on, right? And you took its horn off its head, and you could sell that for 200 gold, right? Like to some wizard because they need it for spell components, right? That's tier 1. That's tier 2, just dungeon master. Tier 1, peak dungeon master. Yeah, y'all's killed a unicorn, right? So and when that unicorn died, it emitted a mortality signal, and this other adventuring group shows up to avenge the creature that you just killed, right? Like, I was like, so it's definitely like a nice little tack on that you could tack on to anything, right? So any like random encounter, anytime your player characters kill a monster, does that monster emit a mortality signal, right? Is there somebody invested in the death of this creature, right? That is a really interesting subject. You could build an entire adventure around that. The idea that when a creature dies, people care, right? Organizations care, factions care, dragons care, right? Really, really cool, very exciting. I was very excited for this. I think this is a great hook, and I'm putting it here for you. What's your thought on this? Have you ever been in an organization that makes sure animals emit mortality signals when they die? Are there any, and also, what are some ideas for when the mortality signal is sent? Who should show up and encounter your player characters? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.